So when you try to picture a terrifying mystery, um, your brain probably cues up like the standard horror movie tropes. You imagine that isolated stretch of highway at 3 in the morning or,
Or like a cabin deep in the dark woods during a massive thunderstorm.
right, exactly. We instinctively want the setting to match that feeling of dread because, well, it gives us this false sense of control. We tell ourselves that as long as we avoid those dark alleys and desolate roads, we are perfectly safe.
Yeah, it's a very comforting illusion. We just sort of compartmentalize danger, assigning it to specific times and specific places.
But the most unsettling mysteries, the ones that really get under your skin, they tear that illusion completely apart because they show us that danger doesn't always wait for some dramatic backdrop.
Which is exactly what brings us to the core of today's deep dive.
Yeah, today's mission is to explore how a terrifyingly ordinary, totally unsolved disappearance catalyzed this massive systemic shift in an entire state's law enforcement infrastructure.
And the concept is just chilling. What if the scariest thing isn't the dark alley at midnight? What if it's a beautifully sunny Wednesday morning?
You're just taking a quick, completely mundane 8-block walk. I mean, a walk that takes less time than brewing a pot of coffee, and you just cease to exist.
That kind of disappearance just shatters the concept of a safe neighborhood. Suddenly the danger isn't out there in the woods. It's right on your front sidewalk.
Right.
So we need to go back to 2001.
Right, to the Benson neighborhood in Omaha.
Exactly. And we need to look at the life of 19-year-old Jason Anthony Jolkowski.
Let's, um, Let's build a profile of Jason first, because his personality is so crucial to understanding why this specific case is just so baffling.
Yeah, everything in the sources paints a picture of a kid who's the exact opposite of what you'd call a high-risk individual.
He was shy, quiet, a bit of a homebody, really. He lived at home near 48th and Pinckney Street with his parents, Jim and Kelly, and his younger brother.
And he was incredibly grounded. He was going to school part-time at Iowa Western Community College, studying radio broadcasting.
With a very specific dream, right?
Yeah, he wanted to become a DJ for a local station called KIWR. And to pay for that, he worked this steady job at a Fazoli's restaurant a few miles away.
So he's responsible.
Very. He was the kind of person who always called if he was going to be even 5 minutes late.
He had a routine. But on Wednesday, June 13th, 2001, that routine fractured. But only in the smallest, most relatable way possible.
Right, he was called into work early for a morning shift. But his car just happened to be in the repair shop.
And since his job at Fazoli's was over 4 miles away, he called a coworker and arranged to get a ride.
And this is where a really small quirk of Jason's personality comes into play. Jason notoriously struggled with directions.
Which is so relatable.
Oh, totally. So instead of giving his coworker these complex turn-by-turn instructions to navigate the residential streets to his house, he just suggested they meet at a prominent local landmark they both knew perfectly.
Their old high school, Benson High School.
Exactly.
Which was only 8 blocks away. I mean, we are talking about a half-mile walk through his own neighborhood. Think about the psychology of a walk like that for a second.
It's pure autopilot.
Right. We all have these liminal spaces in our lives, like the walk from your front door to the bus stop or the route you take when you're walking the dog around the block. Your brain just goes completely on autopilot.
You aren't scanning for threats at all.
No, you're thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch or like a song stuck in your head. You feel entirely, unconditionally safe.
You don't even register the physical act of walking because the environment is so deeply encoded in your memory.
And on top of that, consider the visibility here. It is mid-June. It's a bright, clear morning.
And Jason is dressed for his shift. He's wearing black dress pants, black dress shoes, and this bright white Chicago Cubs baseball tee. Some of the sources mentioned it featured Sammy Sosa.
Plus a blue Cubs cap, and he's carrying his bright red Fazoli's uniform shirt.
Right, so he is highly, highly visible against the suburban landscape.
Okay, let's look at the timeline of that morning, because this is where the sheer impossibility of the situation really takes hold. At 10:45 a.m., a neighbor sees Jason and his younger brother dragging empty trash cans from the curb back up to the house.
Which is just a completely mundane chore.
Exactly. And sometime right after that, Jason starts his half-mile walk to the high school.
But then, between 11:15 and 11:30 a.m., his coworker calls the Jolkowski house. The coworker had waited at Benson High School, but Jason just never showed up.
Wait, so if the neighbor saw him at 10:55 and he was officially missing by 11:45?
That is a maximum window of 30 minutes. on an 8-block route.
That is insane. In that hyper-compressed window, Jason just vanished in the most absolute sense of the word.
He really did. The analysis from the Curiosity Case Files transcript, it really highlights the chilling lack of any physical or digital footprint.
Right, like the investigators pulled the security camera footage from Benson High School, looking for literally any sign that he made it to the meeting spot.
And the camera showed absolutely nothing.
Meaning, whatever happened to him happened between his front door and the edge of the school property.
Exactly. And from that moment on, his digital existence just flatlined. His bank account was never touched.
His paychecks from Fazoli's were never cashed.
His cell phone and his ATM card were never used again. He didn't even go back to the mechanic to pick up his car.
And see, when an adult walks away from their life voluntarily, or, when they experience some kind of slow, unraveling crisis, they leave a trail.
They have to. They need money to eat. They need transportation to move. The whole system is designed to track those transactions.
But Jason's life didn't unravel. It just stopped with a clean, terrifying break.
But logically, and this is something a lot of people bring up, we have to push back on the idea of a daytime abduction.
Yeah, let's really game this out, because snatching a 19-year-old guy off a suburban sidewalk at 11 o'clock in the morning is a logistical nightmare.
It's so risky.
People are awake. They are watering their lawns, walking their dogs, getting the mail. If someone jumps out of a car and tries to grab a teenager, there is going to be a struggle.
Right, there's going to be a dropped hat or that dropped red Fazoli shirt.
Exactly. There is going to be a scream, a slamming car door, tires screeching. Someone in one of those houses would have looked out a window.
And your skepticism there is exactly what makes this case so haunting for law enforcement. A violent abduction in broad daylight almost always leaves a chaotic, messy scene.
So the absence of that chaos forces investigators to look at other options.
Yeah, two primary, equally disturbing theories, which the true crime sources attempt to break down.
Walk me through the mechanics of those theories then. Like, how does someone disappear without making a single sound?
Well, the first theory is the stranger abduction. And for this to work without leaving a trace, it requires an opportunistic interception with just a terrifying level of speed and precision.
Okay.
A predator in a vehicle spots Jason walking, pulls up alongside him, and manages to force him into the car in a matter of seconds.
Wow. It requires a perfect, horrifying storm of bad luck. Like, happening in the exact few seconds when literally no neighbor happened to be glancing out their front window.
Exactly. Just the concept of being in the wrong place for 3 specific seconds is deeply unsettling.
But if there wasn't a struggle, that implies Jason might have gotten into a car willingly, which shifts the entire psychological profile of the event.
Precisely. And that leads to the second theory, the acquaintance. This suggests Jason encountered someone he knew, or at least someone he recognized and trusted enough not to feel threatened.
Okay, so imagine a car pulls up, the driver rolls down the window and says, "Hey, Jason, I see you walking. Want to ride the rest of the way to the school?"
He gets in, he shuts the door himself, there is no dropped shirt, there is no scream.
And to the casual observer just glancing out their window, it doesn't look like an abduction at all. It just looks like a neighborhood kid getting a lift from a friend.
Right. Jason wouldn't have registered any danger until he was already inside the moving vehicle, and by then the trap is sprung.
It is a chillingly plausible scenario. But the agonizing reality for his parents is that there is zero physical evidence to support either theory.
None. There is no crime scene. There is no suspect.
A veteran police officer who actually worked the investigation went on record calling it the most baffling case he had seen in his entire 30-year career.
I mean, put yourself in the shoes of Jim and Kelly Jolkowski. Your son leaves for a short walk on a sunny morning, and he is just erased from the world.
There is no funeral. There is no closure.
You're just trapped in this endless, skipping record of unanswerable questions. Every time the phone rings, every time a car drives slowly past the house, you wonder if it's him or if it's the police with news.
It's a unique, unrelenting form of psychological torture.
It really is. But when the police investigations hit a wall, the Jolkowskis did something truly remarkable.
Yeah, they didn't just drown in that void. They realized that the wall wasn't just built around Jason's case. It was a structural flaw in how the entire state handled missing persons.
They funneled their grief into action and created an organization called Project Jason.
Initially, Project Jason was designed to support other families going through the nightmare of a sudden disappearance.
But they quickly realized that emotional support just wasn't enough. The systemic infrastructure itself was totally broken.
Let's explain why it was broken. For context, before 2005, law enforcement jurisdictions operated largely as data silos.
Yeah, you can think of individual county police departments like isolated islands.
Right. If someone went missing in Omaha, the local police took the report. But the police department in the next county over, or a highway patrol officer 200 miles away, might not have any idea that person was missing.
They operated on completely different computer systems, different radio frequencies, different filing protocols.
It was an incredibly fragmented approach to a problem that requires rapid, widespread communication.
Exactly, because if an abductor crosses a county line and the neighboring police force doesn't have the missing person's data, the trail goes cold instantly.
And the Jolkowskis recognized this catastrophic flaw, so they began aggressively lobbying the state government to fix it.
And 4 years after Jason vanished, they achieved something monumental.
In 2005, the Nebraska legislature passed LB 111, which officially became known as Jason's Law.
This legislation mandated the creation of a centralized statewide database to radically improve how missing persons are reported, tracked, and communicated across every single law enforcement agency in Nebraska.
It forced the state to tear down those data silos once and for all. Jason's Law ensured that an alert generated in Omaha would be instantly visible to a cruiser patrolling the state border.
It was a massive legislative victory. And Kelly Jolkowski's relentless advocacy was recognized at the highest levels.
Yeah, in 2010, she received the Volunteer for Victims Award directly from U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder.
And then in 2014, she was awarded the Nebraska Governor's Points of Light Award. She took the absolute darkest moment a parent can endure and weaponized it to build a safety net for everyone else.
Which perfectly transitions us into the third source in our stack today, the 2006 Nebraska State Patrol Annual Report.
Right.
When you first open this document, it is exactly what you would expect from a government agency. It is 50 pages of dense bureaucratic language, organizational charts, budgetary breakdowns.
It feels entirely detached from the emotional weight of a missing child.
It really does. But laws like Jason's Law, they don't execute themselves. Ink on paper in the legislature doesn't magically find missing people.
No, you have to build the physical machine to do the work. And in Nebraska, that mandate landed squarely on the desk of the State Patrol.
Let's talk about the Nebraska State Patrol, or NSP. They're the state's only full-service law enforcement agency with statewide jurisdiction.
Their operating motto is pro bono publico, which translates to for the good of the public.
And just to give a sense of their geographic reach, the state is divided into troop areas, and Jason's hometown of Omaha falls under the command of Troop A.
So, the 2006 report details exactly how the NSP built the machine that Jason's Law demanded. Their Public Information Office took on the role of administering the newly created Missing Persons Clearinghouse.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of a clearinghouse. It essentially acts as the central nervous system for missing persons data.
According to the report, they actively compile a comprehensive weekly list of missing and endangered individuals, both adults and children.
And then they push that centralized intelligence out to every media outlet, police department, and sheriff's office across the entire state.
They ensure that a missing person isn't just a paper file sitting in a local precinct somewhere. Their face and name are actively broadcast everywhere.
The report even highlights this major news conference held in 2006 to officially launch this clearinghouse.
Yeah, you have the governor of Nebraska, the highest-ranking command staff of the State Patrol, and Jason's family all standing shoulder to shoulder.
They are pleading with the public to submit tips and photos. It is this striking moment where raw personal grief forces the highest levels of state bureaucracy to fall in line and change how they operate entirely.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, as you read deeper into this 2006 annual report, a profound and honestly somewhat tragic contrast starts to emerge.
Oh, regarding the sheer technological power of the State Patrol.
Yes. The technology section of this report is staggering. It reads less like a police department update and more like a military briefing.
It really does. Consider the aerial capabilities they outline. The NSP proudly announces the deployment of their new Bell 407 helicopter.
And this isn't just a basic traffic monitoring chopper. It is equipped with video downlinking and FLIR technology forward-looking infrared.
Which is incredible tech. FLIR detects thermal radiation, meaning a suspect could be running through dense woods in the pitch black of night, and the helicopter's camera sees their body heat glowing bright white against the cold ground.
You literally cannot hide from it.
And the report goes on to detail the deployment of heavily armed SWAT teams to handle barricaded suspects. They talk about their air wing unit tracking stolen vehicles across state lines from the sky.
And perhaps most relevant to the data sharing we were talking about, they detail the rollout of the TraceS system.
TraceS is essentially a digital nervous system for the state. It's this electronic citation network that instantly downloads data from a patrol car into a centralized statewide hub.
They've basically built this interconnected, high-tech web that gives them almost a godlike view of the state.
The report even includes a story where their technology allowed them to spot a single suspect hiding in a tree line during a drug bust that actually crossed over into Iowa.
Right, so they possess state-of-the-art surveillance. They have helicopters that see in the dark, digital networks that share data instantly, and SWAT teams ready to deploy.
And yet, sitting right alongside all of these high-tech, omnipotent triumphs in the very same report is the implementation of Jason's Law.
It is the ultimate heartbreaking irony of this entire deep dive.
The Nebraska State Patrol has the technology to track a heat signature from thousands of feet in the air in total darkness. They can instantly share data across hundreds of miles.
Yet, Jason Jolkowski, a 19-year-old kid wearing a bright white baseball t-shirt, vanished while walking just 8 blocks through his own neighborhood in the middle of a sunny morning.
And despite all of this statewide reach, despite the helicopters and the infrared cameras, his disappearance completely defeated the system.
To this day, over 2 decades later, no one knows where he is.
It serves as a profoundly humbling reminder of the limits of our institutions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Law enforcement can build the most advanced data clearinghouse in the world. They can deploy the most sophisticated surveillance tools ever invented.
But a single silent moment of human malice on an ordinary suburban street can still outwit all of it.
It's wild. The journey we've taken through these sources today is just, yes, it's a lot to process.
It really is. We started with an ordinary teenager whose only deviation from his routine was needing a ride to his job at Fazoli's.
And that tiny ripple created an incomprehensible void. A mystery so profound and agonizing that it forced a grieving family to take on the state legislature.
And they won. They systematically tore down the data silos of an entire state, forcing the creation of a unified clearinghouse that forever altered how Nebraska protects its missing citizens.
The Jolkowskis ensured that the bureaucratic failures that hindered the search for their son would not hinder the search for anyone else's child.
But it leaves you with a deeply provocative thought to carry with you today. Think about your own life and the illusion of safety we talked about at the very beginning.
We live in a modern era where we assume we are always visible.
We leave massive footprints every single day. We leave a digital trail of GPS data with our phones. We leave a financial trail every time we tap a debit card.
We leave a physical trail on countless neighborhood ring cameras and intersection security feeds.
We feel inherently tracked, and therefore we feel inherently safe.
We assume the system is watching and that the system will catch us if we fall.
Yet, if a completely unsolved 8-block walk on a sunny morning could reveal such a massive, catastrophic flaw in the system that it forced an entire state to rebuild its law enforcement infrastructure from the ground up.
How much of our modern sense of safety is actually just an illusion?
Exactly. How many of the systems we trust today are just built on the foundations of the mysteries we could never solve? And what invisible flaws exist in our high-tech safety nets right now, just waiting for a quiet, sunny morning to be exposed?